Is Khamenei now facing enemies within? As the regime hangs a man it accuses of armed action and labels more protesters as saboteurs and enemies of God. Iran has executed a man accused of leading protests and firing at a governor's office. Does this harsh response show a deep anxiety inside the system about losing control? As Mojtaba's external war with the US and its allies drags on, is that conflict now turning inward, with Tehran hunting alleged internal saboteurs, terrorist teams and opposition networks at home? Iran has executed a protester who took part in a nationwide uprising in January, according to reports from the country's judiciary. The man was identified as Abbas Akbari Feyzabadi, who faced accusations of taking part in armed actions during the unrest. The execution was announced on May 25 by Mizan News, the official outlet of Iran's judiciary. Feyzabadi was convicted on serious charges, including enmity against God, Mojtaba, a capital offense under Iranian law. He was also found guilty of collusion to commit crimes against internal security, according to the judiciary report. Authorities accused Feyzabadi of acting as an armed leader during protests on January the 8th and 9th. He was further alleged to have participated in an attack on the governor's office in the city of Naein. In a related development, Iranian intelligence services recently claimed to have dismantled a foreign-backed terrorist team, which they linked to broader unrest and security threats. The operation was reported in Iran's southeastern Fars province, according to Press TV. Iranian authorities said the suspects were linked to hostile foreign elements. Iranian state-aligned reports said the cell had been planning sabotage and terror operations. Iranian security forces said they seized weapons, ammunition, and communications equipment. Public Relations Department of Fars Provincial Intelligence Office said, and I quote, 15 members of the team, who had actively participated in January's foreign-sponsored riots, were identified and captured following technical and surveillance operations. The detainees were operating in two separate cells and were in close contact with a newly established foreign-based anti-Iran terrorist outfit. The members of the terrorist team had received training to conduct bombings and various acts of sabotage at the behest of the Tel Aviv regime, but were nabbed before they launched any hostile action. Iranian intelligence forces recover 5 assault rifles, 61 bullets, and 5 Starlink satellite internet terminals from the terrorist hideouts. The presence of firearms among the seized items points to the extent of the plot, which the terror team had hatched in order to cause widespread insecurity and threaten the livelihood of ordinary people. Unquote. The announcement comes amid heightened warnings in Iran about enemy infiltration and covert operations. Mojtaba Khamenei has previously warned about hostile media activity and security threats. A former senior Israeli official reportedly said that Iran emerged as the winner from the recent war. The ex-Israeli general said Tel Aviv and Washington now appear to be facing a difficult and uncomfortable strategic reality. Retired Major General Giora Island made the remarks in comments to Channel 12, according to Press TV. His comments came as Trump said the United States and Iran were close to reaching a deal to end the war. Giora Island said, and I quote, "Iran won the war, perhaps by a few points, but it is a clear victory. The Iranians can express greater satisfaction with the result of the war. The Islamic Republic's ruling establishment remains intact, despite the aggression. The country demonstrated strong resilience and power throughout the war and was now projecting strength towards the United States and its allies. A preferable scenario for the United States would be a return to the pre-war status quo in the Strait of Hormuz, without being forced to make additional concessions to Iran, alongside the lifting of the American naval blockade against the country. The U.S. has been forced to leave the nuclear dispute with Iran out of the agenda of current indirect diplomatic interactions with the Islamic Republic, and rather focus only on ending the war. This would effectively return the United States to square one." Unquote. The U.S. and Israel had justified the war by pointing to concerns over Iran's nuclear threat and missile capabilities. However, Iran appears to have used its leverage in the Strait of Hormuz to pressure its adversaries toward negotiations. After several rounds of talks, Washington now seems prepared for a deal, even if that means moving away from its original goals. Donald Trump made a major claim about ongoing Iran negotiations while gunfire erupted outside the White House on May 23, according to official statements and social media posts. The U.S. president announced on Truth Social that a U.S.-Iran agreement had been largely negotiated, pending final details and formalization. He also stated that he held a very good call with regional leaders and a separate discussion with the Israeli Prime Minister during the same period. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I am in the Oval Office at the White House where we just had a very good call with the leaders of countries across the region, and all things related to a memorandum of understanding pertaining to peace. An agreement has been largely negotiated, subject to finalization between the US, Islamic Republic of Iran, and the various other countries, as listed. Final aspects and details of the deal are currently being discussed, and will be announced shortly. In addition to many other elements of the agreement, the Strait of Hormuz will be opened," unquote. Trump's statement did not include any direct reference to Iran's nuclear program or its uranium stockpile. Shortly after, Iranian state-linked media outlet Fars News Agency pushed back against the claims, saying the status of the Strait of Hormuz remained under Iranian control. Fars described the US president's account of the negotiations as incomplete and inconsistent with the situation on the ground. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai said Tehran and Washington were moving closer to a 14-point memorandum of understanding. Ismail Baghai said, and I quote, "We are now in the finalization stage of this memorandum of understanding. The topics being discussed at this stage focus broadly on ending the war, halting the US naval aggression, what they themselves have labeled a naval blockade, and issues related to the release of Iran's blocked assets. Our approach has been to first draft a memorandum of understanding consisting of 14 articles. That memorandum would include the most important issues necessary to end the imposed war and matters of fundamental importance to us. Subsequently, within a reasonable time frame of 30 to 60 days, the two sides would discuss the details of these issues and ultimately reach a final agreement," unquote. Baghai said issues related to Iran's nuclear program were not currently part of the discussions. He also stated that the Strait of Hormuz was not under US jurisdiction and should be managed by regional stakeholders such as Iran and Oman.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.